Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is monster loves you. What? What? Oh dear. Alright, okay. So this is developed by Radial Games Corporation and Dejaban. Apparently. Never heard of either of them. And the Steam page describes it as a game where you make a lot of choices as a monster. You grow up from a little squidgy blob of blob, then you go all the way through monsterling stage, and then you become a big monster, and then you make some choices. It's kind of like Spore, only not terrible. So, let's check the settings. Yeah, that didn't take long, did it? Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. This game is, for the most part, what I would class as choose your own adventure. Yeah. There's kind of a few minor RPG elements in it. I mean, you are playing a role, don't get me wrong. In fact, I mean, you could call it an RPG. Isn't that what a choose-your-own-adventure book or a fighting fantasy book or something like Lone Wolf really was back in the day? I don't know if you played them growing up. You bloody well should have. They were great. Oh, man. Starship Traveler. That was kick-ass. Death Trap Dungeon. Yes, I remember being repeatedly destroyed by that book. That was nasty. I don't think I legitimately beat many of those. I cheated on a lot of them. The funny thing is that now that particular genre, which used to be in book form, has been translated into video games, as well as actual fighting fantasy books on mobile devices like iPhones and iPads. There are actual multiple fighting fantasy books. In fact, there's a new one, I think it was Blood of the Zombies, was written specifically for iPad, which in itself is quite fantastic. But we do also have games that are very choose-your-own-adventure-ish. I think a lot of these games end up being flash games for the most part because they're generally pretty short. So the question is this one fleshed out enough to justify the cash? Let's find out. It's not exactly a game that takes an awful lot out of your computer, let me put it that way. It's not particularly ridiculous in that respect. In fact, there's a lot of very, very static scenes going on right here. Alright, so down at the bottom, you've got 5 different stats. Bravery, cleverness, ferocity, honesty, and kindness. And these are generated via various actions. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go adventure in town. Now, these adventures take time. And how are we going to pick them? Well, you're not really told a lot by this. You can obviously infer from the icon what's going to be going on here. That looks like some kind of strength test of some description. Let's click on that and find out what's going on. Alright. We are heading into town. And this is going to be a lot of text. Yeah, there's no voice acting in this game as far as I'm aware. If there is, again, I just have no idea. Mupsy Moral slithers up to you and says, I wonder if you can confirm a rumor for me. Okay. I will have nothing to do with Mupsy. No, I'm not a douchebag. I'm a nice monster. I would like to talk to Mupsy. Hamrag was baking a special 6 pork pie made from 6 kinds of pig, you know, a delicacy. That sounds delicious. What is so delicate about the 6 pigs? I'm very curious. Very curious. I see. Reasonable. Okay, the pie was cooling on a windowsill and vanished. Your friend Nash Nash was seen nearby just before. Yes. It'd be just like her to steal a pie. Don't want to cover for him? No. I'm an honest person, and Nash Nash, quite frankly, is disgracing the town. So, I get +2 honesty. I'm basically creating a monster based on me. Cleverness, honesty, and yeah, actually no, this is nothing like me at all. Mupsy scratches some notes on a piece of torn paper. Interesting. What would you say about Nash Nash as a person? Tell the truth. A violent thug with no regard for the rules. Yeah. Yes. That didn't sound good. And this is pretty much the game. What there is of a game, I guess. It's almost worth calling this a visual novel. You're presented with a lot of choices, and eventually, according to the game, you'll get to make choices which will actually affect the world. As it is, it's just a bunch of choices. And that's, funnily enough, the entire game in and of itself. And for a huge amount of people, that's going to be nowhere near enough to justify it. Most of you have probably just turned off by now, saying, why the hell? What would I even bother? Figure it out using geometry, or debate it with big words. Can I do geometry? Apparently I'm reasonably good at it. And I... That's pretty cute. While you scratch at different percentages using dirt, they just ate the cake. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm a bit of a dumbass. what I will say is it's got a lot of charm to it. Like, graphically, it's very, very nice. They put a lot of style into it. Obviously, it doesn't take much when most of it's pretty much static. It's intriguing, and it's something that you'll probably get a few playthroughs from if you like the style. It's almost like a twisted fairy tale of sorts. A small crowd gathers in the square. Prudence and Gritmitten are in some kind of argument. Go see what they're arguing about. Yes, let's find out. Nash whispers to you. Gritmitten says he saw a human wearing a coat made from a monster's hide. How terrible. Prudence said she saw it too, but it was just a costume. You watch the elders discuss the situation calmly and quietly, with only a little clawing and spitting. Offer to help resolve the conflict. Humans are dangerous, leave the elders to it. Investigate this by visiting the human city of Carmen, or listen to the debate more. I want to hear more. Rock throwing a few times, but it's mostly civil. Prudence keeps shaking her head and smiling as though Gritmitten is a fool or a monsterling, and that makes Gritmitten's temper flare like lightning. Investigate it further. I want to know more. Gritmitten keeps insisting that humans have made clothing out of monsters, and Prudence keeps insisting that Gritmitten is mistaken. Neither one shows sign of backing down. Encourage more discussion. We don't know about this. Oh. Well, that's unfortunate. You keep talking long enough after the two elders would have given up and agreed to disagree. The only result, alas, is tears and blood. Comes to a real fight which Prudence barely wins. Well, that's not so good. Apparently, people got kind of battered by that. Wow, I suck. I feel really bad. That was unfortunate. But, you know, what you're seeing here is, as far as I can tell, pretty much the entire game. Now, the game's claiming there's more than 900 choices to make, and there's a bunch of different endings. And that's mostly due to how far you get your stats up here. If I'm totally honest, this is the kind of thing you would probably end up expecting from a Flash game. And that's not necessarily bad, but it's really very much a case of whether or not you're actually willing to pay for that kind of experience. You're paying for what is essentially a visual novel. Yeah, a choose-your-own-adventure, which has got some pretty cute graphics. It's nicely put together for the most part. It's got a reasonable soundtrack. It's quite relaxing. You know, it's a chilled-out game. It's a visual novel. It's barely a game in and of itself. Now, I've played a number of visual novels. Like, Phoenix Wright is probably the one that I like the most. You can go even more in depth in talking about a lot of the kind of hardcore Japanese stuff, but Phoenix Wright is perhaps one of the most well-known of that genre. And I like them a lot. I was really intrigued by the story. Am I here? In places. You know, some of it's kind of funny. You hear screams, shrieks, and cheers, and you come running. The oldest monster is fighting a challenger. Even the elder monsters flee to a safe distance. You know that this could turn out very badly. Let's find out who's fighting. Yeah. Alright. Okay. Should I learn from it, or try to stop the fight? I get really scratched up here, but I don't like it. I'm a brave person, apparently. I've upgraded my bravery significantly. Tripartite mouth and emits a keening wail and slices one of the purple challenger's tentacles off without looking as blood showers down around you. The elders cry in terror. Stand up to him. And apparently that was not a very smart thing to do. Well, yes. Huh. Yep, pretty much. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I messed that up, by the looks of it. Stand tall, why not? Losing cleverness here. This was pretty stupid. No, you nearly poop yourself out of fear. Yeah, you can make some pretty dumb choices here and not really get all that far as a direct result. But, you know, this is the game. There's really not much else to say about it. There's barely any mechanics to speak of because it is a visual novel. And for most people, that's just not going to be nowhere near enough to actually buy it. Personally, as somebody that has more money than sense and likes to try different stuff, this is something I will dip into and probably beat a couple of times. Because, you know what? I like stories, I like choices, and the game is nothing but those two things. Aside from that, there are absolutely no mechanics to speak of. So, there you go. But I felt it was pretty important to actually bring you a video of this game because let's just say, the Steam page doesn't really describe what it actually is. So, it's fairly important to at least know what it is you're getting into if you want to pick this up. You can find many versions of this game, not this specific game obviously, but games of its genre on Newgrounds, for instance. Some of them are pornographic. I'd suggest you avoid those, because they have terrible stories and really bad dialogue. But in terms of some of the more interesting visual novels, yeah, it's worth giving a crack at them. And of course, the Phoenix Wright series is a great example, as well as 999, that's pretty good. Hotel Dusk 514, a couple of other things. There's quite a few interesting games in this genre. This one's pretty cute. It's fairly interesting. Not what I would call necessarily special. And definitely a little bit it's different to what we see on PC, certainly, but it's also a little bit difficult to sell anyone, really, isn't it? It's like, how am I supposed to sell this to someone? Well, it's a game where you click a lot of buttons and make choices based on menus and occasionally shown little squidgy orange blobs. Like, what, really? Why would I be paying for this? Well, some people do like that kind of stuff. It's like buying a book, and it's around the price for a book as well. It will cost you currently $9, €9, or £6.29. Pretty much as simple as that. There's a decent amount of replayability in it. There's like 10 different endings, and it's pretty cool if you like visual novels. And if you don't, well, yeah, you've already turned this video off, so who the hell cares, right? So there you go, folks. Monster Loves You, currently available on Steam by Radial Games Corp and Dejaban Games. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.